welcome back to another episode of 4th and 30 podcast. As you can see, we're one man short tonight, so we'll do our best to carry the load without Carl. I think he's tied up with work. We got a lot of football on the plate for you. College basketball started a couple nights ago, and NBA is starting up. So let's start with football from last week. The Bills fell to the uh, Jaguars 9-6. Nobody saw that coming. Kyler, what was your take on that game?
I mean, you have to start to wonder about the Bills when there were people have been really high on them, deservedly so, and I think everybody still expects them to be. But when you look at the Bills, they lost to the Steelers. They haven't other than the Chiefs, they haven't beat anybody. They beat the Dolphins, the Washington football team, the Texans. They beat the Chiefs, but Chiefs have been struggling, so that's not as great of a win as it usually is. And they beat the Dolphins again. So they haven't beat anybody, and they've lost to the Titans and Steelers, who are two other AFC teams in mix for the playoffs. And then they lost to the Jags. I think there's a lot of parity in the NFL. I don't think you should be too hard on them because you're looking at the NFL. We'll get into more of it later. Anybody can win on any day. I mean, the NFL's in a great spot. It's fun to watch. So I think you still expect the Bills to be there in the end, but no one's separated themselves yet.
No, I was one of the guys who was highest on the Bills coming into this year. They were my Super Bowl pick against the Rams. And, I mean, you said it right. There's so much going on in the NFL right now with teams beating everyone. I made the joke that I feel like more teams lost than won last week in the NFL just because there was upsets. And it was crazy. That's not a good look for them to lose to the Jags. Their one signature win against the Chiefs isn't the same signature that it was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's hard to tell. The thing that gives me hope, other than this 6-9 loss to the Jags, is that the other games they've taken care of business. They had 3 shutouts in the first 6 weeks, I think. And then their offense rolls against good teams. Normally, they didn't score a touchdown last Sunday, so that's hard to say coming off of that performance. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. The AFC is so messed up right now. 2 weeks ago, the Bengals were in the 1 seed, and I think they're outside of looking in on the playoffs right now. So it's just crazy right now.
I agree with pretty much everything you guys said. The only thing I would say, I think the Bills are right in the mix. I don't think anyone would say anything else. But the only thing I would say is Kyler said you can't be too hard on them right now. But if somebody told you the Chiefs were struggling like they were coming into this year, and somebody told you no one else is really stepping up, wouldn't everyone expect the Bills to be that team to step up? And they're not taking advantage of the opportunity, I don't feel like, right now. Like, they're just kind of in the mix. I feel like everyone thought they would be the team if the Chiefs weren't the team, and they're just kind of there. I mean, they're gonna be there when the season's over, but they haven't stepped up to the opportunity, I don't think.
We've kind of cursed the teams that have been the front runners all year long. Every time we say something, every time we talk about, oh yeah, the Bengals, they look legit. Oh yeah, the Rams, they look legit. They always seem to lose. But right now, the Titans seem to be that team, even minus Derrick Henry. The young running back they have, the original backup, and then AP both look good. Which Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. Right. I've said it time and time again. He's the best running back in the league. But it makes you wonder how much of that is the offensive line, how much of it is the scheme, because those two guys look good as well.
All right, timeout. Who do the Titans play this week?
The Titans.
They play the Texans. All right, everybody go put money on the Texans plus 10.5 because we just jinxed them.
You heard it here first.
I would say the most impressive thing about the Titans, which are kind of shifting gears here, the most impressive thing about the Titans last week is their defense has been terrible all year, and their pass rush is coming along. Their front four, they're getting pressure with 4 guys, and we see that be a theme in the NFL against the good teams. If you can get pressure with 4 guys, you can win games. And last week they did it. They were in the backfield all game against the Rams, and they didn't blitz much.
Yeah, that's a good point. The defense has. We'll see if their defense can keep it up because it's still the Titans' defense. But the way they played the Rams was impressive. Harold Jackson, he's up near the league lead in sacks. and he's been getting pressure on a lot of dropbacks. It hasn't been Bud Dupree, their big offseason signing. It's been the other guys.
Ironically, Dupree has not been very good.
Yeah, he has not. He's been statistically one of the worst in the league on the edge. But he is coming off an ACL injury, so you gotta have to take that into account. He's still a good player. But Cody, you said it. The Bengals were first a couple weeks ago. They are now 10th. First to 10th in the AFC in 2 weeks. That's how jumbled up it is, and it should be a fun finish.
In our power rankings, they dropped from 8th to 16th in 2 weeks. They have like an 8-game drop or 8-team drop.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna see them go back up because we put them down.
and then the Titans are gonna drop. You heard it here first. One thing pass rushing made me think of it is Josh Allen from the Jaguars made Josh Allen from the Bills' life hell all last week.
Yeah, he did.
And all the memes about Josh Allen from the Jaguars is Josh Allen Sr. and then Josh Allen from the Bills is Josh Allen Jr. But that was just a fun little touch to the weekend.
You had the Will Smith on Will Smith matchup in the NLCS, and now you got the Josh Allen.
So yeah, those were two of the biggest upsets of the weekend. The other one I would say Broncos Cowboys. I think even though the Broncos are 5-4 now, I think most people expected the Cowboys to win that game rather easily, and it was quite the opposite. What's your take on that, Cody?
Well, and so the thing with me, the reason that the Cowboys were a shoe-in because they're far superior to the Broncos, but the Broncos just traded off. I mean, this is their first week without Von Miller, the cornerstone of their defense for what, I don't know how long he's been in the league, but a long time now. So you think that would just give the defense fits, and then the Cowboys' offense just looked horrible. No, I think more so it was the Cowboys' fault than what the Broncos did. But anytime the Cowboys lose to somebody who they should beat is a good Sunday afternoon for me. But the Broncos looked okay. The Cowboys looked horrible. I think they'll shake it off and be playing well again in no time. Dak's first game back after his missed 2 games, right?
He missed one.
He game.
Missed one.
Anyway, Dak was a little rusty. He'll be back to being Dak before too long. He'll be fine.
He only missed 1 game, but he did miss 2 weeks because they had a bye in there as well. So he did have an extended layoff. Maybe explain some of the rust. So yeah, I'm not taking too much stock in that Cowboys loss this week. I'm impressive win for the Broncos. I think you got to give them some credit. They started out hot, hit some adversity, and they've won 2 in a row now. That's impressive, and that's a team that can, maybe compete for a playoff spot. I don't think a lot of people expect it, but I am taking some stock and, losing 3 in a row and then winning 2 in a row after that. That's a good fight through adversity.
Well, and as jumbled up as the AFC is, and in particular the AFC West, anything can happen. If the Chiefs continue to struggle, the Raiders have had some adversity here recently, and if the Chargers don't start winning some of these games, it's anybody's division.
Yeah, we were just talking about how much parity there is and how high we thought the Bills were and how low we thought the Broncos were. Would anybody believe that they have the same record right now?
Yeah, not at all.
But I do think that game, the Broncos just completely demolished them. Time possession 41-19. First downs they killed them. Total yards they killed them. Passing yards it was even because of the fourth quarter. Before the fourth quarter, the Broncos scored all 16 of their points in the fourth quarter the Cowboys scored all 16 of their points in the fourth quarter when the Broncos were playing basically prevent defense, just letting them dink and dunk them. That game was an annihilation from the get-go. Surprising.
So sure. Another game, the Steelers got the win, but I think the storyline of the Monday Night Football game was Justin Fields. That guy came to play, and he wasn't playing good early. The Steelers were playing good defense, and the Steelers got a 14-0 lead. When you saw that, kind of their offensive scheme went out the window, and they just told Fields to go make plays. He made some plays, like a lot of plays against a good defense. And yeah. I think Fields is starting to grow up. And if that offense can score points, the Bears could be a scary team to contend with.
And I feel like I got to clarify this every time. I have never been anti-Justin Fields. I was just always pro Andy Dalton. And you always hear stories like about the game, players coming out parties. This is the game they broke through. This is the game where it all turned around for them. And even though it wasn't a win, you know, it was that far on the crossbar from being a win for the Bears. I'm saying it right now, that was Justin Fields' game right there. He's gonna play at that level the rest of the year and hopefully only improve from there. Good for the Bears. I don't like the Bears, so I kind of don't like that, but he played really well against one of, if not the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is if the Bears start winning and it saves Matt Nagy's job because he'll just hold Justin Fields back. They need to get Matt Nagy out of there and get somebody else in there who knows how to coach toward his players, not away from them.
Kyle Shanahan might be available for him.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'd pick him up. I would take Kyle
Oh,
Shanahan.
there's not a team in the league that wouldn't pick up Kyle Shanahan other than the guys with already elite coaches.
Well, might as well go ahead and talk about it. 49ers get beat by the Cardinals without Kyler Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins. What went on in that game?
Niners are just bad.
Well,
I don't know why. I don't know what's going on in the locker room, what's going on with their game plan, what's going on with their players, but they're just not getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of just like the rest of Week 9, you just some weird stuff happened, and give the Cardinals credit. They won the game. It's a division game. Those teams know each other so well from playing each other every year that even when you have injuries in division games, you can sometimes overcome them, and the Cardinals did. And the 49ers just are sliding or reeling, and they just can't get anything going.
The thing that really amazes me about the Niners is the genius coach we were just talking about. Their running game has been terrible this year. Like it hasn't. Like we're expecting them to be a top 5 running team, and they're relying on Jimmy Garoppolo to try and win games right now.
Yeah, Mostert was the guy I had on my draft board in both my fantasy leagues. I wanted him so bad and didn't get him in either league. They've struggled to run the ball. If you'd have told me that in any game that Jimmy G threw for 100 or 330 yards and Kittle had 100 receiving, I would think that's a recipe for a Niners win, not a 14-point loss.
Agree. Or they're just down the whole game, I guess, and they're trying to come back at the end, throwing the ball over the field, I guess. How about the Patriots? Patriots are right back in the play. I talked bad about them 2 weeks ago, and right now they're right back in the playoff mix.
Yeah, well, Cody and I also said Andy Dalton was the guy in Chicago this year, so we're all wrong. The Patriots are looking like a solid team. Before they won, got back into it, they also gave the Cowboys all they could handle. And Patriots are looking like a team that's going to contend for a playoff spot. This week will be a good test for them because they play the Browns, and the Browns are coming off a big win in which they might have figured some stuff out. So, I could see them going one of two ways. I could see them not being this good, or maybe being a playoff contender. I'm not sold on them yet.
Is Nick Chubb playing for the Browns? I know he's questionable right now. It doesn't look like he's going to play, I don't think. That would be a big
limited
because Chubb would be out, Hunt's already out, and their third string running back's out. So they'd be down to the bottom of the barrel if Chubb wasn't able to play.
Too bad the Ravens already signed all the running backs on free agency.
Yeah. I agree with you there. The Patriots look better than I expect them to look. I'm wrong about them. But I also think everyone is really jumping on the Patriots right now, and they just came off of a win against a Panthers team who has looked abysmal the last 3 or 4 weeks. Give it some time, see where it goes. They might be in the playoffs come 8 weeks from now because of how the NFL's going, but they also might be a 500 team. It's hard to tell yet.
I keep thinking that the Chiefs, one of these weeks, which their schedule gets pretty hard here up the next stretch as they hit the divisional games. But I kept thinking against the Giants, the football team, the Eagles, we would have a game where we win big, just blow them out of the water, 41-19 kind of game, and we haven't had that yet. We beat the Packers, but it was horribly ugly. I'm worried that the Browns just had that game. That the Browns have struggled early this year. They were a contender on everyone's board, a playoff team at worst, contender at best for a title with everything. And they came out last week after struggling so far this year, and they just dismantled Cincinnati, who has looked like a playoff team so far this year. And I'm just worried that may have been where the Browns hit their stride right there, and there's no looking back for them. And an AFC, like we've said, that is up in the open right now for whoever wants to take it.
It would make sense because I've talked about how bad the Browns were for the last couple weeks. So we put the reverse jinx on them, and they got better. Another game. I think everyone expected the Saints to beat the Falcons. Now, granted, after that game, they're a game apart, and the Falcons are theoretically right in the playoff race. But I think going into it, everyone expected the Saints to win that game. What's your guys' feeling on the Saints? You guys already know my feelings on the Saints.
The Saints to me are a lot like the Steelers and how I think about them. They've both got good records. They've won some games, but they don't pass the eye test yet, and they haven't really done anything to make you think that they are true contenders. So that's kind of how I view the Saints. They're good enough. They're well coached. Coaching's underrated in the NFL. There's a reason Tomlin's never had a losing season. It's because he knows how to get 9 wins out of a team with a talent level of 6 wins. Peyton's the same guy. He's been around a long time. He knows how to get wins. And I think he's done that for him, sitting at 5-3. And I don't think their talent is vindicative of the record. And until, if you don't count the week 1 drubbing of the Packers, which who knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking going into a game, if he even wants to be there or not. But, that's kind of how I view the Saints. Not sold on them, in contention. But I want to see that blowout game that Cody was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think sorry.
No, go right ahead. Go right.
I don't think, and I think the Saints Steelers is a good comparison because they both have really good defenses, and I don't trust either offense. I don't trust either offense right now. When it comes down to it, if you're playing against a team that you have to score points against, I don't trust either offense. But yeah, I agree with you. The Saints, if they can figure something out on offense, I think they're a competitive team in the NFC. But I just don't see it happening. Especially now, they have too many 8-8 quarterbacks on their roster as well.
Bring back Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, how many? But that's another 8-8 quarterback at this point in his career, I think.
Yeah.
I don't. You just have a bunch of okay quarterbacks. It's like when the Broncos had Paxton Lynch, Sermon, and Seaman. All 3 of those guys. They didn't know who they were going to start.
He said Seaman.
They didn't know who they were going to start every week. You're like, who are these guys going to start this week? Osweiler was there too.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kels, with the 8-8 quarterbacks. That Simeon looked good against the Falcons, but it wasn't good enough to win that game. It was better than I think everyone expected, but it still wasn't good enough to win that game. And he's really not that any better than Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. And I think we all consider those guys. Jameis, arm-wise, is the most talented by far. He's one of the most talented guys in the NFL. But, it's not really that much of a downgrade, but it's not an upgrade by any means. He was the backup. So I don't know. If they can get by a couple games with Simeon, maybe get a couple wins, they might still be in contention. But I'm with Kai. I can't tell. I can't tell how good they are.
Yeah, and one of the things I worry about with the Saints is they have an immobile quarterback, and all teams with an immobile quarterback. If your offensive line isn't great or very good at giving you time to throw the ball, I think it's hard to win in today's NFL without a mobile quarterback. You have that offensive line has to give the quarterback time to throw the ball downfield, because you see guys like Justin Fields and all those guys, they can extend the play and get 40, 50-yard plays, and those make a huge difference.
Yeah. There's no doubt the NFL has definitely geared towards guys that can at least move in the pocket.
Yeah, that's the thing is you think back when Michael Vick was breaking onto the scene. it was all stationary guys. Nobody ever ran out of the pocket. They would move up and forward and backwards in the pocket, maybe left to right a little bit. And Michael Vick was like an anomaly. And now I would say guys like Big Ben, Trevor Siemian, guys like that who don't move around a whole lot are the minority in the league. Because you got guys like Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes isn't really a runner, but he's mobile. He can get away from stuff.
He can make people miss in the pocket.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the majority. And then you've got the Tom Bradys who are just GOAT status, and they can get away with it.
But Tom Brady doesn't win without a good O-line. He doesn't anymore.
I mean, I agree to an extent. He's
the best chance to win it.
Yes.
Without that.
I agree with that. The Ravens barely escaped with a win. They might be atop the AFC right now in everyone's power rankings. I'm not sure. What do you guys think about the Ravens? I mean, everyone knows Lamar Jackson might be the best player in the NFL right now, but other than that,
well, you look at the AFC. The Ravens have put themselves in a good position. They have, because all these teams are pretty equally matched, but the Ravens have won some games that they probably shouldn't have won. So they've put themselves in a good position to take that division. It's far from over, but just like the rest of every team in the AFC has questions. Titans, Derrick Henry's hurt. Ravens won some games they shouldn't. Their defense is like 28th in the league. Chargers, we haven't talked about them much, but everybody's got questions about the Chargers. Bills, Raiders, Steelers, they all have questions. And it's going to be, and like Cody said, the Browns had their game this week. Which team out of them is going to come together? Is they going to be the story of the AFC? Who comes together and wins 8 of their last 9 games?
We talked about it in depth a few weeks ago about how Lamar Jackson, what he does for an offense. He gets ragged on for being a running back and not having a great arm talent when he is a more than capable passer. But it showed again, it doesn't really matter who you put behind him in the backfield. They are going to have success running the ball because of Lamar Jackson. So as long as he stays healthy and continues to play well and not turn the ball over, they're going to be in games. They may struggle to win some of those games because their defense is inept at times. But as long as number 8 is on the football field, they are going to win games. They are an 8-8 team at worst with Lamar Jackson being on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys touched on it. Lamar is the whole team. And right now, the AFC, if there was a team that I actually thought was playing like the Chiefs were the last 2 years or the Bills last year, if there was a team like that, I would not think the Ravens would have a chance to beat them because they rely solely on Lamar Jackson. But because nobody else seems willing to step up, if the Ravens can stay at the 1 seed, I mean, if they can keep themselves in that position, having home field in the playoffs, I don't know.
Speaking of that game, though, Baltimore, Minnesota, for anybody who doesn't know who Baltimore played, is Kirk Cousins the new Phillip Rivers? Just can't win close games.
I mean, I think that's a good comparison.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is very talented. I rag on him when we were doing our QB power rankings and stuff, but he's good. Kirk Cousins is a very talented quarterback, but he just doesn't win big games. And that was a chance. A 3-point game. Could have easily won that.
Yeah, the Vikings, when you look at them and you watch them play, you think this could be a 6-3 team. I mean, they show flashes of being really good. But yeah, you bring up a fair point. I brought it up when we did our quarterback rankings and why I ranked Cousins way lower than what his talent level is, because he's got like a 10% win rate against teams over 500 in his career. And it's, you give him a pass for being on, not great teams, but their defense is an average defense. They're giving up the 16th most points in the league. So it's not a terrible defense, and they're just not winning the close games.
Nah, I agree. About Kyler, me and Kyler went back and forth on Cousins. I don't think Cousins is an elite quarterback by any means, but I think he's up there. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in that 8 to 15 range. But the thing that, if Cousins doesn't win big games, if he doesn't beat teams that are good, then that's always going to be held against him. I mean, you can say it's the rest of the team, but there's a common theme here. Every team that Cousins is on doesn't beat teams that are good.
Yeah.
I mean, winning close games does, I feel like, have more to do, a lot to do with the quarterback at times.
Yeah.
And, fourth quarter comebacks.
Let's before we move on, let's talk about that Chiefs Packers game real quick for all our local Chiefs fans from where our region. The majority of what I saw after the game was, oh man, the Chiefs would have lost by 40 if Aaron Rodgers would have played. I don't think the Chiefs win that game if Aaron Rodgers plays, but the offense was bad, but I think the defense was actually good enough to keep them in that game. It was a sloppy, ugly game. Jordan Love looked as good or better than Mahomes, which right now everyone knows is just a fluke. Mahomes is going through whatever, but Jordan Love looked absolutely horrible. But I think a little bit of that, I touched on that in our group chat, a little bit of that comes with the Chiefs being uber aggressive on defense. Now, Kelsey, I think you said it, is they probably wouldn't have been that aggressive against A-Rod because he would have found some way around it. He would have audible out of plays, switched protections, made things happen with his legs. And then Jordan Love was making things happen with his legs, but wasn't completing the passes at the end of that play. He was overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys, throwing it left to right real bad. So that's a game I don't think we win if Aaron Rodgers plays. But the defense trending up makes me, all hope is not lost in this year yet.
No, I agree with you. So it's kind of weird. The first 5 games, turnovers aside, everyone knows the Chiefs had a turnover bug that cannot be explained. It would bounce off of it would go through one guy's hands, off another guy's helmet, and picked off. That happened against the Bills. Turnovers aside, the offense was like historically efficient the first 5 weeks. How well they moved the ball, how well they scored. And the defense was historically atrocious at how bad they were at stopping people. Somehow the last 4 weeks is completely swapped. The defense has played way better than they did the first 5 weeks. I'm not calling them a top-tier defense, but way better than they played the first 5 weeks. And the offense has not been able to put points on the board. And I don't even, like, at this point, it's like everything's against us. We're not supposed to win games. Both sides can't play well at the same time. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I agree we wouldn't have won if Rodgers would have played. I don't think by any means we would have lost by 40. You're putting a lot of stock in Aaron Rodgers if you think he's a 46-point difference in a football game. Like, that's insanely idiotic to say. But I do think we definitely would have lost that game if Rodgers would have played. I mean, probably like 24-13. Like, it would have been a somewhat decent game, but we wouldn't have won.
I mean, some games are just slugfest, and it happened to be this one, an ugly game. Chiefs just need to keep grinding. No one's running away with the AFC. I think Chiefs fans, just like me being a Steelers, I wanted to see the Steelers rock the Bears to give you that confidence that, you got a chance. I think a lot of Chiefs fans wanted to see that, and they're disappointed that they didn't. But if you're the Chiefs, you just got to keep grinding. No one's running away with it. Eventually, it'll click. I mean, it will to somebody.
Here's the fact of the matter: the Chiefs are 5-4. The Bills are 5-3. We just talked about how the Steelers have a good record at 5-3. Like, the Chiefs are very frustrating. As a fan, I've been very frustrated. But they're 5-4. Like, they're in the thick of it. We just said the Steelers had a good record at 5-3. We're talking about how horrible the Chiefs are.
You can't run away with it every year.
Yeah, like,
you just can't do it.
We're right there in the thick of it. Yes, we do have to figure some things out, but it's anybody's game right now.
I mean, this is the year for the Chiefs to struggle. And I said after week 5 that our offense is there. Our offense is good. We just got to get the defense turned around. I wasn't worried about our offense at all. I was worried about our defense losing us enough games that we wouldn't make the playoffs or wouldn't win the division. Well, now the defense is coming around just like everyone hoped. They are looking better. Even though it's against Jordan Love, even though it's against the Giants, they're looking better. They didn't play horrible against the Titans. The Titans were just on the field the entire game. Their offense was. But the offense in the last 4 weeks has scored 13, 3, 17, and 7. That's not going to win many games in today's NFL. I said it the other day. I will never ever slander Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy. Those guys are the holy grail of coaches, in my opinion. As a fan, I think they're top tier, both of them at what they do. But sometimes the play calls are confusing and frustrating to me. It was 3rd and 6 or something, and we run a little bubble screen pass to McCole. Like it's not making sense to me right now. Travis Kelsey, there's not a bigger Travis Kelsey fan in the world than me, and he has been utterly frustrating to watch this year. Still having a fairly good year, but he looks unmotivated. Mahomes seems frustrated, seems like he has the yips, just uncharacteristic stuff for him. Tyreek's dropping passes. It's all stuff that can be fixed, though. Couple TD bombs to Tyreek in a week, couple long runs or long catch and runs for Travis Kelsey. Mahomes gets a little sidearm pass in there and gets his swagger back. This whole thing could turn around in one play, but they need that one play.
Yeah, I think Travis Kelsey's been the most surprising, honestly. I've never seen Travis Kelsey has pretty much been able to dominate every defense that's been thrown on him his entire career, and he has not been able to handle press coverage to save his life. Granted, I'm sure there's some guys holding on to him and grabbing onto him and yanking him. You see him complain every play about it, but that's happened his whole career. He's got to figure out a way to get the guys off of him, and maybe he's slowing down. He is 32 years old. I don't know, but
I was gonna say, I said it. I said this during the quarterback rankings too. That Mahomes is gonna see a little bit of a different game when Travis Kelsey starts to slow down. When you look at his numbers, I mean, he's got over 600 yards and over 50 catches already. So he's contributing, but he was playing at such a high level. Travis Kelsey, arguably the greatest tight end to ever play. That when you do see a little,
but go ahead.
When you see a decline in performance like that at 32 years old, you start to, he's still got a little bit in him, but his prime it's on its way back down. And I think that's partly why Mahomes has struggled more than he has in his first few years.
Well, and with Kelsey, the last 3 years they were the 3 best seasons ever by a tight end. So any dip is going to look bad, but you're comparing it to the 3 best years ever. But pre-Andy Reid, pre-Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey was a head case. Nobody liked him. He complained, whined, threw flags when they were thrown. Like he was almost a cancer to the team. There were some games where he cost them more in penalties than he did by contributing on offense.
That playoff game.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive him against the Steelers. I was there.
And
he shoved that DB in the back.
That bad attitude has not blown up like it was previously, but it's like peeking its head a little bit. Like you see little flashes of, oh, is he going to come uncorked here? And maybe he's just matured enough that won't happen. But you can see the frustration in his eyes. You can see it in his play. When they were trying to draw, was it the Packers or the Giants? They were trying to draw somebody offsides at the end of the third quarter, and they lined up. Mahomes is given the hard count, and Travis Kelsey just turns around and walks to the sideline with like 2 seconds left on the game clock. Like that's the stuff you can't have. Somebody's got to squash that right now.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if anybody's. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is pretty big, but I don't know if anybody's big enough. not big enough, but like a big enough, person to say, "Hey, Travis Kelsey, you've got to stop this," because Travis Kelsey's as big. I don't know how to describe it, a big ego or person leader as there is in that locker room. So I don't know if there's a bigger leader than Travis Kelsey that can say, "Hey, this is when you stop it." You would think Andy Reid would, but. We've kind of spent a lot of time on last week. We got the Raiders and the Chargers games that we didn't go over. The Giants beat the Raiders. I think everyone expected the Raiders to win that game. Just when you think the Raiders are flying high, they find a way to blow a game. And the Chargers escaped with a field goal win against the Eagles last week. Anything you guys want to say about those two games before we move on to this coming week?
Now let's go ahead and talk about the big news. We've had a couple of big things this week.
I assume you're talking about Odell Beckham Jr., another star signing with the Rams. Rams are clearly going all in on this year. Where do you think that guy? You guys think that puts them as the sole favorites for the Super Bowl, or maybe a little bit better? Or?
I don't think it really improves their team. I mean, they're already a they're already a good team with a chance to win. I don't think Odell really improves them. Um, and that's no disrespect to Odell. It's more respectful to the receivers that they already have, and Cooper Cup and Robert Woods, and you know,
And even Jefferson.
pretty explosive receivers. Yeah, Van Jefferson. They already have explosive receivers. It could make a difference. I don't think it makes a huge difference. It gives them some depth if somebody goes down, which is also could become huge and could affect their team. But I think the Rams are. It's hard. It's hard to go all in and football. It's hard to do that. You don't see teams do this very often, which makes it interesting. But this
Yeah.
is something you see in baseball or NBA.
Yeah, you're exactly right. First off, this narrative that Odell Beckham is some guy, some head case that has one spectacular catch in his career is just nonsense. Odell Beckham is an elite wide receiver. He is just about as good as they get. Cleveland wasn't the right scenario. On paper, it should have been the perfect scenario, but it wasn't for whatever reason. You saw a bunch of Cleveland guys come out and say he was amazing in the locker room. He was a great teammate. He was very upbeat all the time, even after bad games. And going to LA is the perfect scenario for the Rams and for him. The Rams gain an elite wide receiver. And if it doesn't work out, say those guys from Cleveland were wrong and Odell is a cancer, is a distraction, is a crybaby about not getting enough touches. They don't need him. He's a bonus to them, but they don't need him. They're already a top team in the AFC or the NFC without him. So sit his ass on the bench if it's not working out. You'll be all right. But like Kai said about the going all in, it's pretty cool to see it once in football because it doesn't happen very often. You'll see a piece picked up, not two big pieces like OBJ and Von Miller. I think the meme about the last time the Rams had a first round pick, they took Jared Goff and just said, nope, we're never doing that ever again. We'll just trade all our draft picks. But that's what they're doing. They are Super Bowl or bust this year. The thing is, with this lineup they have, granted OBJ hasn't played a game yet. Von Miller's only played one, but they're chasing the Cardinals. It's not like they're sitting pretty and just picking up pieces to cruise out the rest of this year. They're chasing the Cardinals right now as the best team in the NFC.
It's funny you say that because I actually said that to someone. I said, I think the Rams have put so much into this season and they realize they're not even the best team in their division right now. And they're just grasping at straws, trying to prove to themselves that they're the best team. Like Kyler said, they have Cup and Woods and Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee, all four viable receiving options. Higbee obviously being the tight end. They just released Deshaun Jackson. So I don't know if they're going to go five wide and spread everyone out. And Robert Woods has some carries this year. Maybe they'll put him in the backfield to. I don't know what their plan is, honestly. People were talking about the Chiefs didn't need Odell, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. You guys know I don't think we have a number 2 receiver on our roster right now. I like McColl, but I don't think he's number 2. But the Rams have 3 viable receivers. Like Van Jefferson has been good this year, and Woods and Cup are both can be number 1s, let alone number 2s. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they have a plan for him. I don't know how much better it can make that receiving core that they already had so much power on.
Yeah, I think the only way it makes them that much better, and this is possible because Odell's shown he can do it before, but if Odell balls out and if he can give Stafford a safety valve to where he can just throw the ball up and Odell will go get it, that's what can make him better. Odell's proven he can do that before, and like Cody kind of opened my mind to it. Maybe Cleveland wasn't the right scenario for him, but maybe LA is. That could bring out the best in Odell compared to Cleveland. 2 different situations. He's played in New York. He loved it there. He loves the big lights of the big city. Maybe LA brings that out in him again and he just becomes the best receiver in the game. If he does that, he can help them.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland, it wasn't the right fit for him because it was such a scripted offense. I mean, Baker, no offense to Baker, but Baker goes through his reads and If
Play
I mean,
action, run the
yeah,
ball.
yeah. I mean, it's just not the right kind of offense for a guy like Odell who wants the ball just thrown to him all day. Which LA having 4 receiving options might not be the right offense either, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
Sean McVay is the wide receiver whisperer, though.
The
Sean
quarterback
McVay
whisperer, he
is
made Jared Goff look like a
Odell Beckham might not get the 10 targets he wants to a game, but the ball in LA is going to be thrown his direction at least 5 times. I mean,
well,
at
it's like what
minimum.
Devontae Adams said. Devontae Adams said, "Come to Green Bay, you'll get the ball more than 1 reception for 6 yards. Hopefully, you'll be happy with 2 receptions for 12 yards."
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. So the other big news, Cam Newton to the Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like just it feels like what Kelsey just said, grasping at straws. I would love to see the Cam Newton come back and maybe be take a flashback from the past. I think that'd be fun to watch. I just don't think there's a chance it happens.
I agree. I think that I think the Panthers thought they had something good this year. I think they thought they were legit. They traded for a corner. Their defense looked good. Their young quarterback they just traded for was looking good. And all of a sudden everything's falling apart and their quarterback's injured. And I think they're just trying to grasp at what they maybe had. They think why not go for Cam and give it a roll. I don't think Cam's going to get them to the playoffs or anything like that. I like you said. I like watching Cam play. I hope that we can see some 2014 Cam Newton. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't think Cam's that player anymore. I don't think Cam is good enough to make this team a playoff team or a contender. But they are only 2 games out of the division. I don't see Tampa Bay slowing down. Tampa Bay is not going to lose enough games for Carolina to catch up. But, say Cam finds that motivation, say that Carolina lets him beat Cam. Bill Belichick kind of used him as a running back first. More so used him like Tim Tebow than Carolina to let him beat Cam when he was there before. So maybe they'll take the reins off of him, let him be Cam Newton. He's still a physically imposing quarterback. It's just hard to tell. He may not have it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. This may burn up in flames. But I'm excited to see Cam Newton playing football again. I think Cam Newton is good for football, and I'm excited to see him play. It may be a disaster. It may be a dumpster fire. It may be a good thing. We won't know for a couple weeks, but I'm glad Cam Newton is playing football again.
I agree. I'm glad someone called him. I just don't know if he has anything left. So I think we're running a little behind. You guys want to pick a game each and say what you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah,
I'll just start
pick
us
one.
off. I'll just start us off. Chiefs Raiders, Sunday Night Football. You got Chiefs Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, 5-4, 5-4, 5-3, 5-3. Obviously, a big game to determine who's going to win this division. What do you guys see in this game?
I mean, Chiefs Raiders games are always crazy. It's going to be a good game. It is what it is. Sunday night primetime game. Division rivals, division on the line to add to the flame. Chiefs are struggling. Raiders struggled last week. With all the misfortune that happened in their franchise. I'm going to say it's going to be a real good game. 21-24, 28-31 kind of game.
The Raiders always kind of play the Chiefs tough. Even in years past when you didn't think the Raiders would be able to hang with them, they do. It's gonna be a dogfight. No one's gonna win this one easy. You don't think. And Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr is made for these moments. He's an underrated quarterback. I mean, he doesn't like playing guys like the Giants. The best in Derek Carr gets brought out when he plays under these lights, and it's going to be a great game. Both teams really need a win.
Yeah, I think Andy Reid's going to have the team ready. I think the Chiefs are going to come out and win this one. I have faith in them, but the Raiders aren't going to make it easy. That's for sure. Let's see what other games we got coming up this week.
I got my must watch noon game. Normally it would be Steelers if the Chiefs aren't playing at that time. But they're playing Detroit Detroit's got to win a game at some point in time. I just don't think it's this week. I hope not.
It's a trap game for sure.
But Cleveland, New England. You know, we were talking about Cleveland a little bit ago and New England. Cleveland looks like they may have found something going. Still going to be struggling at the running back position. And then New England is right there in the playoff hunt. They're right there with the Bills. They look like they could be a fairly good team this year, despite what I said early in the year. And so that's going to be a good game. It's in Gillette, so who knows what'll happen there. The Browns headsets might quit working. The footballs might be a little flat. Never know. But that's a game that needs to be watched.
Yeah, both these teams are feeling pretty good about themselves right now. I think this is one of the best games of the week. You know, Browns are coming off the drubbing of the Bengals. Patriots are, right in the thick of things. Both teams are feeling good. I'm taking the Browns. I trust their offense to score more points than the Patriots.
I agree with you there. The only question I have is will Chubb play? If Chubb doesn't play, I think it's a different game. Because I don't know who the Browns even have at running back at that point.
You know, Bill Belichick's always been pretty good about taking away the strength of the other team's offense. And if you take away the running game of the Browns, you saw it in the Steelers game, that they kind of struggle. So that's a storyline to watch this week.
Another good one. We talked about how bad the Niners were, but Niners-Rams Monday Night Football division game, probably gonna be pretty good. I'd guess.
Yeah, I don't think the 49ers are going to go away too quietly. I think they'll make a little bit of noise.
At this point in time, as all in as the Rams are, that's pretty much a must-win for the Rams against a division opponent.
If they want to keep pace with the Cardinals, yeah. I mean, the way the Cardinals are playing. We got Saints-Titans. We were just talking about how the Titans might be the best team in the AFC, maybe. The Saints offense can't figure it out. What do you guys see in that one?
Well,
I see a good Saints defense against a good Titans offense, and I see a bad Saints offense versus a pretty bad Titans defense. So we'll see. I'm gonna take the Titans.
I'm expecting a closer game here probably than the spread. If I was betting, man, I'd bet Saints plus 10.5. The Titans are.
You are a betting man.
You're never as good as you look, and you're never as bad as you look. And I feel that way about the Titans right now. I don't think they'll run away with it. I think they'll win a close game.
I agree with you. I think the Titans will win, but it won't be by 2 touchdowns. Other game I see, Vikings Chargers. We just talked about how we think the Vikings are a little better than their record. You guys think the Vikings can get an upset in this 3:00 game?
Vikings are capable of beating anybody. And the Chargers, I think, are capable of losing to almost anybody. And the Chargers are at home, but as we all know, when the Chargers play at home, it's not really a home game. So, yeah, I mean, Chargers just had a big win on the road in Philadelphia. I talked about that being a big game for them. And, you know what happens after you win a big game on the road. Sometimes you struggle at home.
Yeah, SoFi's main home team is the Las Vegas Raiders. And then it's the Rams after that. And then probably a couple other teams. And then the Chargers. But it's going to be a good game. If you could tell me what the final spread of the game is, not the score, the spread, I'll tell you which team wins the game. Because if it's over 10.5 points, I'm taking the Vikings. If it's and not the spread betting wise, what the game ends up. If the game ends up a 10-point game, I'm taking the Vikings. If it ends up under 10, I'm going to say that Kirk Cousins found a way to blow it, and the Chargers win that game.
All right. Any other games you guys want to talk about before we go on to the... All right, Kyler, who's your pick this week for the Eliminator?
Cowboys -9.
Cowboys -9. I was debating between a couple games. I'm going to go...
At home against the Falcons, for the record.
Cowboys -9 at home against the Falcons. I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go... I'm going to go Ravens -8.5 tonight at the Dolphins.
Cody, who's yours? Oh,
Oh yeah, ask the
You're-
defending
Carl,
champ.
let's get Carl on the phone. Oh, never mind. We don't have to worry about that.
Haha, everyone's got jokes. Everyone wants to pick on the champ.
All right, so NBA talk before we sign off, or time to go?
Chicago Bulls are legit. DeMar DeRozan having a career year at his age is pretty remarkable. Bulls have two guys averaging 26 points a game. Alex Caruso is leading he's probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now. I'm not even necessarily a Bulls fan, but Bulls look legit right now.
The Bulls look legit, and so do the Heat. The Heat look like they're gonna
as well.
They're gonna come back, and you mentioned that in our preseason, but Tyler Hero's becoming a star in the NBA. You know, he said before the year that he wanted to be included in that discussion. He's not in that discussion yet with the superstars, but he is starting to become a star. He's averaging 21 points a game. Looks and just is good. He's a good player.
And Miami's that team that has so many. Jimmy Butler's a superstar, but after that, they've got a bunch of all-star level players. So to average 21 on that team is a pretty good stat because they've got, Kyle Lowry who's capable of averaging 20, Bam Adebayo who's capable of averaging 20. And so, Tyler Hero is playing really, really well.
So, are the Warriors the team in the West? Or is it just a hot start?
I'm glad you brought that up because if Golden State does end up one in the West and become what they were pre-Kevin Durant, or even somewhat close to that, you have got to consider Steph Curry maybe a top 10 player of all time. Because, he's close already, but if they do that, the way they've started the year, they're plus 13.6 on average a game. Are we seeing maybe not top 10 a few years ago, but are we seeing Steph Curry enter into the top 10 players of all time?
I think Cody might already have him there. He always says he's better than Magic.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
I don't know. I can see the argument for Curry or Magic. I'm not gonna even take a side right now. That's not my point of this argument. If the Warriors are as dominant as they look right now, Clay comes back in December. He's not even back yet. If they're as dominant as they look right now, Curry is the greatest point guard that's ever played a game. And I don't even hesitate saying it. The dude is it's insane.
Go ahead, Cody.
I'm not a Curry fan. I'm a Curry believer. I don't necessarily like Steph Curry, but you can't doubt his greatness at this point in time. Not even pre-Kevin Durant could you really do it. It would have to be before their championship runs if you had any knock against Steph Curry. But Steph Curry is playing maybe the best ball of his life, and he's 33 years old, I think, 32, something like that. Like, that's unreal, which NBA players don't necessarily play longer, but it's more like baseball where they hit their career or their peak around the age of 30, a couple years before, a couple years after. But anywho, Steph Curry's playing unreal. The Warriors are 10-1. They don't have Klay Thompson right now, who is a top 5 shooting guard. He's probably top 2 defensive shooting guard. They're only going to get better when he comes back. But I'm going to speak on the Warriors organization. Okay? Steph Curry is so damn good. Klay Thompson is so damn good. Draymond does his role so well. But look at their young guys. Jordan Poole and Gary Payton, number 2, not junior, number 2. Those guys they look like they could be faces of the franchise or faces of the NBA in the future. And that just speaks to how well they draft, how well they scout talent. I think Gary Payton and Jordan Poole are both starters on other teams, but they're playing behind some of the greats. So that team is deep. They're good. I love to see them succeeding again without Durant. So all that kibosh about Durant, blah, 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 is gone, even though they won before him. I don't think they're going to run away with it right now. The West is just too good. The Lakers are 7-5, which is not a bad record at all, and sitting in the 7th seed. The Grizzlies are good, but the Warriors are the team to beat, and they will be all year long, especially mid-December when Clay comes back.
You didn't even mention James Wiseman's been out either.
Yeah,
And
he's been hurt.
Yeah.
another guy that they drafted, to your point, though.
Yep. And they went and traded for Andrew Wiggins, who is averaging 17 a game now. Poole, Wiggins, both averaging 17 a game. Curry averaging 27 a game. So you're getting, what, 64 points from your 68, I don't know, 34 and 27, 57, 61 points, 62 points from your backcourt right now. That's insane.
And we talk about players being in the perfect scenario. Golden State is the perfect scenario for Wiggins. Wiggins is a guy, he's not a high motor guy. He's not a great, Wiggins is a freak athlete that has a knack to score the ball. He's never been a big high motor guy. He never seems like he cares a whole lot. And he's not forced to be the man. When Clay comes back, he's going to be the number 3 guy at best in that offense. And I think that only makes him even better than he was before. So they're deadly. Warriors are really good.
Yeah, I agree. That gonna wrap us up?
Yep.
I think that's gonna wrap us up for today. As always, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the listeners, the likes, the shares, everything you can give us. Go watch the TikToks that Cody and Kyler are putting out. And as always, don't forget to tell your grandma.